We see a lot of divisiveness in our neighborhoods, in the news, and in our relationships. It separates us from coming together as human beings. But we can change the story by coming together and celebrating our diversity and bringing positivity to counter the negativity through the power of love. And music has always been a way to bring people together. Hi, I'm Carl Brister, singer, songwriter, recording artist, and dad to these guys, Justine and Jordan. And I want to personally invite you to the Love and Unity Fest, where we can spread love through great performances from different styles from across the globe. There'll be food trucks and fun activities for the kids, right guys?
Yeah.
So let's come together where we can send the greatest message of all out to the world.
Love.
This is a very, very, very special conversation during the very first week of Love and Unity here in West Orange. And I'm so excited. You guys know that we have been hosting the Love and Unity Fest now for 7 years. It will be our 8th year as we have this full week of love and unity, just using the arts to bring people together from all backgrounds, all cultures, all identities, just bringing the whole community together in LOVE, love. I am your host of this week, founder of the Love and Unity Fest, Week of Love and Unity and Music Village, Carl Brister. And that was a remix of a song that I wrote called LOVE. And I'm so happy to share that tonight as we discuss this important topic, loving your LGBTQ plus child. It is so important that I have a very special co-host with me tonight, my very good friend, author, and music industry executive, Mr. Akim Bryant. Akim, hey.
What's going on, Carl?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm so excited, man. Thank you for being here with me.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've been planning this for a minute, so I'm excited to have this conversation and just, let's spread the love, man.
Yeah. We have with us R&B recording artist Tanya Nolan. Yeah. So we're excited to hear from her. Exactly. She'll be with us shortly, so don't go anywhere. In addition to Akim, we have representatives from the West Orange Public Schools with us, and you'll hear from them shortly. And we have 2 guests that are going to join us right now. I'm going to bring them on. Damian and Justine. Hey guys.
Hi, how are you?
How are you? All right, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to allow you to please introduce yourselves. Justine.
Sure, yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Justine Saliski. I am a project manager and trainer and camp director for Garden State Equality. My work really focuses on youth engagement and creating safe and nurturing spaces for our young folks and the future generation of New Jersey. So I'm excited to be here and hopefully offer some really great insight for the folks who are joining us.
Awesome.
And also, sorry, it says it on my screen, but my pronouns are also she, her, hers.
Got it. Thank you so much. And Akim, you want to introduce Damian, or Damian, would you like to introduce yourself?
No worries. Hi, folks. So my name is Damian Allen Lopez. My pronouns are he, they. I am also a project manager and trainer at Garden State Equality. My initiative focuses on really academia, so as well as Justine's, where we are going out and we're doing workshops, facilitations for either community members, students, educators, anyone in academia to really help and cultivate safe spaces for all, whether they are students, teachers, or part of the community or allies. And I'm also a published LGBTQ award-winning author. So I'm super happy to be here, and I'm excited for the Love and Unity week.
Awesome. We need to know about that book.
Yes.
Please share.
Oh God. Okay. It's a good one. It's a good one. And I'm saying that very biasedly. So
it's a good one. You're not biased.
I don't have it next to me. I usually do.
Oh, there it is right there.
Yeah, it's somewhere in my house. I have many copies around. So it is a Puerto Rican children's book that focuses on a Puerto Rican prince. And he kind of, comes out to his parents. It doesn't necessarily say like coming out. It says, I'm not a princess, I'm a prince. So it focuses on transgender identity, family dynamics of Latinx communities, and also, just gender identity and how family dynamics can differ in terms of, I'll say, Indigenous or Latino representation and community. So it really does, focus on just being young and knowing how to identify yourself, whether you're a princess or a prince or a knight or whatever. And to let kids know that those words and like how to really identify is okay.
Awesome. Yesterday, just to interject, we had a beautiful event called Share Your Story. And there were 13 authors for the Week of Love and Unity Fest. We had 13 authors who had written, different children's books out sharing and reading to kids of all backgrounds and all cultures and identities. And it was a beautiful, beautiful event. I want to shout out the St. Cloud's Diversity Council for organizing that for the first Week of Love and Unity. It was beautiful. So congratulations to you, Damian, on the book. Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Akim?
Yeah, I'll jump in definitely. So yeah, just to kick things off, Justine, if you wouldn't mind also sharing your kind of just personal story in terms of, where did you grow up? How did you grow up? How do you identify? And along those lines, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, so I am in the Oranges as well. I am in West Orange, but I grew up in New York. So I am originally, I was born and raised in Staten Island, and I went to college in New Jersey, and I moved here about 5 years ago. So a lot of my background has been in education and theater. So I have both of my degrees are in theater and theater education. And I really use a lot of that skill set that I have in order to bring awareness about marginalized communities to my nonprofit work. As a member of the LGBTQ plus community, I came out, I want to say it was my junior year of college. That's when I came out. But I knew that I was gay from when I was 6 or 7 years old. Like I have very distinct memories. So I think about a lot of that in the work that I do, especially now with children and in the data and the statistics of what we know about children when they are really learning and discovering who they are. And that's at such a young age that they're able to really put words to who they are as people. I think that's a really important thing to share. So I always do like to share that about myself too. Sometimes walking into a space, people wouldn't necessarily assume that I was within the community. So I always want to make sure that my visible representation matters, especially for kids, to know that if they're with me in a space, it is a safe space for them to be in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's an important point to make is, when I myself was about 5 or 6 years old when I first knew that something was different, felt different from the other boys in my class. And I believe also too, it's when you start, the school journey and you're getting into kindergarten and first grade is when you're really able to see your reflection and realize what the differences are. And, to your point, it's important to create those safe spaces so that kids have the freedom to explore. And I understand what that identity is about before the judgments come into place. So thank you for sharing your personal story. And Damian, of course, definitely want to get into yours as well. And also want to ask how much of the story that you wrote in your book relates to your own personal experience.
I always think that's a funny question. And like, one, because like when you think of book representation, and there's like literally 98% is white cis kids or animals. So Latino and LGBTQ Latino representation, BIPOC representation isn't really on there. So I tell people that while some of the picture book information, like the dynamics is similar to my life, the ending may not be the same, but it's the endings kids need to hear. Of being affirmed and being like, you know, told that they're loved no matter who they are. And so I'm a proud Puerto Rican trans man. I grew up in North New Jersey to a Latino household. And again, in Latino households, there's always like that taboo talk of like, you know, we love family. We're all about family. We're all about this. We got your back no matter what. Yeah. Unless you're gay, unless you're different, unless you don't do this, unless you don't do that. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So like, you know, so it's kind of like hypocritical. And so I really didn't have like representation of queer identities. And I didn't really, I didn't come out as trans until I want to say my last semester of college, which was like, I think September 2019, so like right before the pandemic. Wow. But always knew, like, so I kind of grew up as a tomboy, some people would say, like, and just kind of, and I think it's funny when you kind of look back on it and you're like, oh, that's what that meant. That's why I dressed up in boys' clothes and called myself Michael for a day, and it kind of makes sense now, right? And you know, like the light bulb kind of clicks, like, oh, these things make sense. No wonder I'm trans. Like, like it's always been in me. I just had to realize what the words were. And yeah, so sorry, my puppy wants attention. So, you know, had left my mother's home because she wasn't affirming. My father was affirming, and you know, he helped me choose my name, not change my name. Which was really sweet. So I definitely think we bonded since I've kind of transitioned as now his only son. And so, no, yeah, it's been an interesting ride. It's been interesting in terms of like knowing who's affirming, who is going to be there for you, you know, kind of like that reflection of who's going to have my back if I don't have mine. And I think the biggest thing about maybe being queer or being trans is really that self-love that you have to love yourself unconditionally, to really recognize this is who I am. And I love myself enough to know that this is who I am, and to love myself unconditionally. And if other people don't want to do that, then I have myself for that, and I'll find community for that. And I think that's one of the biggest things that really kept me going, is knowing that I'm doing this for my happiness. And that doesn't, you know, my happiness isn't I'll say navigation for someone else. Because it's my life. And like my dad said, you know, I came out to him, he was confused for a little bit. He said he'll call me back in like 3 days. But then he called me back and he's like, I love you, you know. And he's like the straightest Puerto Rican man you'd ever meet. Wow. But he was like, knew nothing about LGBTQ, but he was like, you know, I love you, I'll support you, I'll never turn you away. And there are people like you before you were born, there'll be people like you after you die, and you owe it to yourself to live as you are and to live for who you are. And I was like, okay, Dad, ally. But it's literally and that goes into what we're going to talk about, you know, but finding community and those people who are supporting you that mean the most. And I told my dad, like, Dad, I'm not telling you I'm depressed. I'm not telling you I'm suicidal. I'm telling you the facts, the statistics of kids who don't have this, of kids who need this, and what happens to their mental health. Yeah. And that's why I need your support, because so many kids statistically don't have that support who are trans, and don't have support from their parents that could really change their life because they need it. Right. But it's been a good ride, and I'm happy that, you know, I'm still here. Happy that I have supportive friends, coworkers, and now chosen family that have also done a lot for me. I really do owe them a lot as well when they took me in after I left my mother's house. But it's, you know, it's really about finding the right community for you, and I couldn't have been happier with how everything turned out.
Yeah, I think that's the most important part is the unconditional love that everyone is required just to kind of, that's what props you up into life. That's what makes, you go out into the world and face all of the challenges and everything that the world is going to throw at you, all the self-doubt or whatever. Like, you need that foundation of unconditional love to fall back on, so that, that there's a group of people, no matter what you do or say, ultimately they love you regardless. And that is extremely important. That's the segment that we have here in terms of, parental support and just kind of how important that is. Justine, if you wouldn't mind sharing some of the facts and statistics that you have on the success of LGBTQ plus youth who are supported in the home versus those who may not feel supported.
Yeah, so I think that the real important aspects to talk about when we're thinking about the statistics of how youth are impacted by support or not, I think that the numbers that show students who, not just students, but youth who are not supported, is staggeringly high in comparison to those who are, when it comes to those who are experiencing any form of mental health trauma. So we know that for queer youth, and when I use the term queer, I'm using that really as an umbrella term. There are some specific studies that are only referring to LGB youth. So that would only be lesbian, gay, and bisexual, because in some instances, unfortunately, there's just not enough information and data to let us know the statistics for transgender youth, because the studies just have not been done, with knowing that there are not as many young people who are comfortable or feeling like they are safe in a space where those studies can take place. But when we're looking at the overall stats for queer youth, we know that almost 70% of queer youth experience generalized anxiety disorder. Over 55% of queer youth have some form of major depression. And almost 50% of youth who have requested services for mental health, whether that be going to therapy or taking medication to help with what it is that they're going through, have been denied those services. And some reasons that they have been denied have been lack of insurance. But unfortunately, a lot of the reason that those numbers are high is because parents and guardians and family that these young people are living with are not allowing for them to be who they are. And in those cases, it is just pushing that barrier further and further between allowing for somebody to live authentically. And then with that, being able to be in a space where their mental health is what matters more than anything else. And when we see what those high numbers are, one space that we can talk about transgender youth is when they're in school. We know that 70% of transgender youth are victimized and bullied in the bathrooms alone. And then a lot of those youth, over 50% of those youth, develop bladder issues. They develop eating disorders because they just do not feel safe going into a restroom for fear of being tormented and bullied. And with that, they miss almost double the amount of school that cisgender students are in school because of taunting and bullying and just lack of safety in their spaces. And when we're thinking about youth who are experiencing that in school, if they're not receiving that support at home, where is there any kind of space for these young people to thrive and be just human beings, right? So when we think about how important it is to have support at home, if you're not getting all of that support at school, you need to have a home base. And I think the really big thing to think about is, would you rather your child be alive or would you rather your child not? And that's a really hard truth to swallow for some people. But the answer should always be that you want your child to be alive. And there are resources and there are spaces that can help families understand how to support their child, because all of the good things that we hear from youth who feel supported, like there's only 25% of youth who have come forward in the last survey of 2021 to say that they feel the utmost support while they are at home with their families. And those supports look like families who go out and do research, families who go to therapy with each other, families who will watch a TV show or a movie with an LGBTQ plus character in it, families who read books like Damian's book in order to really immerse themselves in the culture, the queer culture that exists. And although it might take some time and you will make mistakes along the way, we always go into our trainings talking about practicing purity of motive. And if you give yourself that grace in understanding that you're going to mess up, but it is your responsibility to do better because this is your child, that is the place that you need to be in. So we can get those stats to be way lower than they are now.
Yeah. And Damian, I wanted to follow up to piggyback on what Justine just mentioned. For me, coming up, we're two different generations. When I was coming out, the West Village specifically, was a really safe space for the community. It was where a lot of us kind of discovered who we wanted to be. Teenage years, hop on the PATH train and go to Christopher Street, and we were all over the village. And that's no longer the case today. So I'm wondering from your perspective, like, where do you go to find your community, especially when you were first, stepping out to find community? Where did you find that safe space?
I think I always think everything is funny. I'm sorry. I think it's a funny question because I tell people I'm a bit still shocked about, queer culture, because I jokingly say, I've only been a guy for 3 years, in the books, but it's it's still very new. It's still very interesting. So I really immersed myself into it. I feel like when I first found a safe space, that was when I was in college. Because I met other queer people, and then I was like, wait, what is this? And I ended up going to like a training, and I was like, why does this word resonate with me? And then, did my research, making sure that I, whatever. And then, it hit me, I'm trans. And I love that question too, because especially growing up in Newark and not finding that visibility, have to now seeing that visibility always had been there, but I didn't realize it was there. I need you to get off my desk, Stevie. And she's like crawling to be with me.
Sure.
So I think it's very funny because I even reflect on this in the work that I'm doing now, which I absolutely love because I feel so close to my community, and I know like these are my people, my teammates, and we have a joke like we say workers, but it's funny. And they really, I feel so seen with them in like knowing that there's other BIPOC queer people around me, knowing that there's other BIPOC queer people that's always existed around me too, and people who are in my family that have been LGBTQ, but my family be like, oh no, they're como se dice eso, poético, like they're dirty, they're nasty, don't go near them, and I'm like, hi, dude, that's my cousin. So just kind of reflecting on that growth there, it's always been there, and I feel like the safe space that I've also had was with my chosen family, because those individuals had were such a big part of my journey. They took me to my top surgery. They took me to get my driver's license at the time, and they really just took care of me the way I needed to feel authentic, to feel unconditionally loved. And it really felt like finding good community that's always been there, but also making sure that you're kind of breaking down the barriers that held you back too, because again, talking about that self-love and that selflessness, that makes sure that if there's not a place that's going to love me, I'm going to find the people that are going to love me. And that's what I have now. Like I have friends, I have really close chosen family, I have wonderful coworkers that are literally like my family. Like I've never been so happy to live. Like it feels authentic. It feels, I give myself a lot of grace, and I give myself a lot of, I feel a lot of gratefulness to be where I am now, and the people that surround my life. But it's out there. And I think the whole point is that it's just about our knowledge that it's there. Cause we tell people, yeah, there's only 2 like LGBTQ youth, homeless shelters in Jersey. And they're like, what? And I'm like, or like, yeah, there's like, we have almost 500 LGBTQ affirming or safe space healthcare facilities on our healthcare map that we just launched. Shout out to Jamila. And they're like, I didn't even know this was in Tom River, or I didn't even know this was in North, or I didn't know this was in blank. And we're like, it's out there. It's just now that because the needs and people can feel so authentically themselves, and that's why we're seeing more kids come out as queer. That's why we're seeing more adults finally saying, you know, I'm actually this. I've been like this my whole life, you know, and they can confidently say, you know, this is who I am and this is how I've always been, and not have that social stigma that stops them from doing that. And that's why we see the need increase, and it's there and it's out there and it's growing, and thank gosh, because we do need those services just like students need those services as well. So it's there. It's just we have to find it and find our community as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We have to find the community, find the love. It's out there. It's alive for anyone to tell anything different. And just the information is just pretty much all we really need to really find the safe space that we need to thrive. So yeah, thank you, Justine and Damian, for sharing, the facts and your personal experiences. And
Yes, and before you all go, I want to share, I met Justine and Damian at a workshop that was being conducted by one of our next guests, and it was for parents. And there was so much powerful information that you shared. And in fact, here we have a comment from Christian Fusarino. Powerful words, Damian. Community is so important. And shout out to everybody that's leaving comments. You've been getting comments throughout. Aaron said that, Justine, come with the facts.
yes.
And if there's anyone out there that has questions or would like to leave a comment, please leave your comments, and we'll definitely have our guests do their best to answer, or perhaps get back to you through email. And this was a statistic that I saw at the Trevor Project, and this is what arrested me so much when I attended your workshop about the impact of family on the youth. And the second point here says LGBTQ youth who felt high social support from their family reported attempting suicide at less than half the rate of those who felt low or moderate social support. And I think that speaks to the points that you both have made as it relates to the importance of family support, which is what brought us here. There are parents who love their children and want to be supportive, but may not know how to go about it, or that it is important to do so. And whether that looks like agreement or they're entitled to their own feelings about it is another conversation. Supporting our children can be a matter of life or death.
Yes.
And so I like what you said, Justine, when you said, do you want, you said something to the effect of, do you want them to live or not? You want them to be here with you or not? And that's why we're here. We want to just offer ways that parents can support their children and show them the love that they need on their journey. And I thank you both for what you've shared. And I know that there are parents out there who are listening intently and may now know, hey, I need to support my child. So thank you so much for being here. I hope that you'll stay with us in case we get another question. And we're going to allow one of our next guests to come, but we thank you so much for the time that you shared.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having us.
Yes,
All right.
thank you.
Yes, yes. And you both will be at the Love and Unity Fest this Saturday, May 20th, West Orange, New Jersey, 1 Kelly Drive, Liberty Middle School, from 1 till 6 p.m. So if you have questions and you want to meet Justine or Damian in person and just sort of kick it a little bit more, come on out to the fest. And speaking of the fest, here's what the fest is really about and what you'll see when you get there. We see a lot of divisiveness in our neighborhoods, in the news, and in our relationships. It separates us from coming together as human beings. But we can change the story by coming together and celebrating our diversity and bringing positivity to counter the negativity through the power of love. And music has always been a way to bring people together. Hi, I'm Carl Brister, singer, songwriter, recording artist, and dad to these guys, Justine and Jordan. And I want to personally invite you to the Love and Unity Fest, where we can spread love through great performances from different styles from across the globe. There'll be food trucks and fun activities for the kids, right guys?
Yeah.
So let's come together where we can send the greatest message of all out to the world.
Love.
Yes, exactly. That's what it's about. Love. Shout out to my two guys there. Now, Justine and Jordan are much taller now. But that's how the Love Community Fest started. I began to see the world through the eyes now of a dad, and who was raising young sons of color in a world that had become increasingly violent and marginalized, and that is the same and tenor under which this conversation is had for the LGBTQ plus community, and we're joined now by Karyn. I'm going to allow you to announce yourself, Karyn.
Hi, I'm Karyn Peyangrosse. My pronouns are she, her.
And she's school counselor
Yes, I'm a school counselor at Roosevelt Middle School
in West Orange, New Jersey. And Deb?
Deb Cohen, my pronouns are she, her. I teach photography at the high school after 13 years down at Roosevelt. And I'm also one of the co-advisors of the GSA, Genders and Sexualities Alliance.
All right. And they will also be at the Love and Unity Fest this coming Saturday. And please know it is rain or shine. So if it rains, we will be indoors, but we will have the fest. And if the weather forecast changes, we'll be outdoors. But we're going to be at the fest this Saturday, May 20th. And I'm so excited that you guys, I keep saying you guys, you told me what your pronouns were. But I want to thank you for being here. And I want to thank you for the work that you do in the schools. And can you both sort of speak to the response that a school has when a child comes out or has questions about their identity?
So I'm going to say it depends who the child comes out to. And most of the time, I think they're going to first come out to their friends. And the response is very positive, and students usually have no problem at all. They feel very supported and very accepted. They could come out to a staff member, a teacher, a school counselor, and the response is going to be a little bit different. We do train all teachers and all staff members throughout the year, and with Garden State Equality as an example. But so we do train the staff so that they are equipped to respond to students when that time comes. But some staff members are not as comfortable talking about it. Not that they're not accepting of the LGBTQ students. It's just that some staff members are not comfortable with the language and the notions, and then don't know how to respond to students. And it's the same when students cry in the room and they send them to us because they're not sure they're going to say the right thing, and they turn to professionals. So that's sometimes what happens. But oftentimes I have to say that students will come out to one adult specifically in the school, and this adult can be very different. It's usually one teacher that they really trust, and it goes really well. Now, nobody is allowed to out a student. So when the student talks to me, for example, I'm not allowed to tell anyone else. And this is a discussion that we have with the students. Who knows about it? Are your parents aware of it? How do you feel about it? Do your friends know about it? Do other teachers know about it? Because this is very important. And sometimes students take an entire year to come out to all of their teachers, and that's fine, and they don't have to. But it's just something that we need to think about. It would be very disrespectful to out a student.
Absolutely. But there are some parents out there that will be comforted in knowing that if their child is having these thoughts, there is a system in place to support at school. And I think that's important information for parents to know. But now, for that child, and it's grade school, whatever the grade is, whether it's high school or middle school or otherwise, there's always that friend that you sort of tell your secrets to, and they say, yeah, I'm not going to tell anybody, and the next thing you know, they told two friends, and so on and so on and so on. And they've shared something personal, so the student didn't exactly come out, but they were forced out. What do we say? And perhaps they're experiencing bullying. What type of things are there in support of the child, or what can they do? Where can they go?
So I am also the anti-bullying specialist, and they're anti-bullying specialist in all the schools. So I think in that case, we would put in place an HIB investigation, as we call. So it's harassment, intimidation, and bullying investigation. The tricky part in that question is that because we're not supposed to out students, when we do an HIB, we have to contact parents, we have to contact a lot of other students. So I think we would treat it as if it's a rumor, because we don't want any student to feel this way and to feel bullied. That's period, end of the story. So we would definitely address the issue, I believe, as an HIB situation. And we want all students to feel accepted and supported, and that's it. We really want them to feel safe, and we do create safe spaces in the school so that they know where to go and they know who to talk to, whatever is happening in their lives.
So just from the high school perspective, I'm also the mother of 3 children, one non-binary, one gender fluid, and then one who is still presenting male. They were all male at birth. But I think the one who's non-binary, when they came out in middle school, it was very rough, because middle schoolers, no matter what it is, they're not mature enough to deal with anything. And it ran through the school very quickly, and unfortunately wasn't handled well by the administration. So we dealt with that. Seeing at the high school, first of all, the kids know which teachers to not let them know. To be really blunt, there are teachers in the building, I'm sure there are teachers all over the district and in many other districts, that don't agree with it and don't think it allowed, but the kids learn quickly. You can tell based on personalities or some comments that may not even be directly related to the community. And they also know those of us that are safe spaces. One of the things we did this year was we purchased from Gender Inclusive Schools posters that said, I'm an educator who believes, and it's all of the various things that essentially affirms as many groups as possible in a poster this big. So the kids are very supportive. There is definitely bullying that happens at the high school. I don't want to diminish that. But the kids find their groups. There's 2,200 kids at the high school in West Orange. So they have their they can find their people. And then they find those teachers that they become closer to, whether it's kids that I know from the musical and the plays, or from the chorus teacher, or their woodshop teacher, whatever it might be. So it is interesting. And like Karyn said, no, we can't out the kid, but a lot of times the kids at the high school, if they're being bullied, they want, unless their parents don't know, they want it dealt with as a HIB, because they want the punishment to be what it should be, not what it has to be, because they don't want to disclose it to people. Most kids at the high school, not all, and the biggest problem we run into is the kids whose parents don't know. So I mentioned this before we were live. My start of school survey has changed over 25 years of teaching, and now has a question about, what name do you want to be called? What are your pronouns? And then the follow-up questions are, can I use this name with your parents? Can I use your pronouns with your parents? Can I use it with your friends? Can I use it with other teachers? And more of the teachers at the high school are doing that because they're finding that the kids are receptive to it. And they're more receptive when you mess up the pronouns. If you've made that effort, they're like, don't forget in the survey. Right. And it can become a way of dealing with it that way.
So as it relates to the pronouns and New Jersey law, if a student shares with you that they are preferring to be called by a different name, that name being one that where they are basically informing you that they are transitioning or using an identity that's different than they are using at home. By law, are they allowed to do so in school? Are you
So in New Jersey, because it's different per state, but in New Jersey, if a student wants to change their name and pronouns, they can do that officially or non-officially. I mean, when I say officially, I don't mean on their birth certificate, obviously, but officially, I mean in our system on Power School. So if it's official, we need to fill out a gender identity plan. And of course, we would have a lengthy conversation with the student to affirm them and make sure they also understand what that means to change their name on Power School. Once their name is changed on Power School, that means their parents are going to be aware of it. Are the parents aware of it? Are the parents supportive of it? And we want to make sure they're not going to be in a very terrible situation at home. We don't want to create conflicts at home. So we would have a long conversation and several conversations with students to make sure they understand what that means. When the students are all for it, we fill out the gender identity plan, we submit it, and their name is changed within 24 hours on Power School. This is very quick. Their email is changed, everything in Google Classroom is changed. That's for the official one. And New Jersey law says that unfortunately parents do not have, unfortunately, parents do not have to agree to that. So this is the student right, and that's what it is. Now we do have students who know that the parents are not in agreement, will not be supportive, or so they say, because oftentimes I realize that parents are more supportive than what their children are saying, but and they do not want to do it officially on Power School. So we do call them. They do go by a different name at the school, and they go by different pronouns at the school, and this is their safe space. So they are a certain person in the school and a different person at home, and the parents do not have to know, and this is the law. We have to protect students in their identity.
Now, is that age dependent, or is that any age?
Any age.
Any age. And I can tell you at the high school level, when I filled out all the forms at the beginning of the year for my twins who are seniors, they asked us what we wanted on the diploma. So we put Sky Cohen, which is what Sky goes by, rather than their dead name. And I know the high school, sorry, if I don't move my mouse, I keep losing my screen, and I've got two monitors. They do the same thing at the high school in West Orange. It's up to the students, but in that case, it has to get the parents' approval. because the parents are the ones that ultimately get the diploma. So there are students that will say, nope, use that name, as they roll their eyes, because they don't want to, but they know that's what they is better for their situation at home. And the number of students who do not have parents that know is always bigger than I can imagine, because I just can't imagine not being supportive of your child. But I grew up in the South, so I've seen both sides of the argument. And I don't want to go too deep down this road. I don't believe West Orange has seen it yet, but in Madison, we've got a group of anti-trans, anti-LGBTQ parents showing up at board meetings, trying to get the policy of the school of this law that all schools have overturned, and that it doesn't belong in schools. And it's very reminiscent of what we're hearing nationally. And luckily we have a team of parents that just show up at board meetings and counteract everything they're saying. But it is scary how many parents don't affirm what their child or children are. So
I mean, as a parent myself, I found that to be very interesting, that those laws exist, and students or youth have the rights that they do have, and parents who normally have veto power if need be. Basically, those rights are there to help those students with when the parents are not as affirming. And so I think it's important for parents to know that those laws exist, and it's also important for students to know that those laws exist. And if you guys don't mind hanging out, I want to talk a little bit more about the GSA and the importance of affirmation and socialization with our groups. If you guys could just hang out with us just for a minute. We also want to bring out another guest who's with us today. And Akim is going to do the honors of the introduction here. I'm so excited. And I know she has something to say about the youth, because she does work with youth as well. But you got it, Akim. I want to play her clip when you finish and bring her out.
Okay. All right. Yes. So yes, up next we have a very special guest. She is an R&B singer, a songwriter. Sanger. Yes.
Sanger.
Specific. But yeah, you can hear, I'm sure you've heard her voice, her music on your local radio stations, just throughout the country. She's put out a number of projects. She has a current single out now with Raheem Devon called Pace Yourself. And yeah, her name is Tanya Nolan.
Thank you.
Did I say Sanger?
You did. You did.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, congratulations on all the success that you've had in music. Yeah, I mean, you're still definitely a rising artist in the space, but you've been able to make such headway in ways that I think resonates with, just a lot of what we're talking about today, but just just in the world in general, because you bring love to the forefront in almost everything that you do. And if you wouldn't mind just kind of just sharing your own personal story about just where you're from, how do you
Okay.
identify, and your pronouns.
Okay. Well, I don't have any pronouns. I'm just Tanya.
Okay.
I'm guessing it will be she and her.
Yeah, let's do
Okay,
it.
okay. I'm from Galveston, Texas. Currently live in Houston, Texas. Been in Houston for over 20 years. I own the largest childcare facility, me and my wife, in the state of Texas, which is in Lamarck, Texas, and we also have one in Galveston, Texas. And I'm also an artist, a recording artist, of course, singer and a songwriter, and I love music.
Yeah, I do too, personally. So I get that. That's of course how we originally connected with my work at Pandora, and
I was like, I said to myself, I know him.
Yeah.
I said that, and then as I'm listening, I was like, that's where I know him from. That's
yes, I know. But yeah, how did you get into the childcare business? Because I think that's just such an interesting story.
That came from the heavens, because I had no idea. Till this day, I have no kids of my own, But it happened with my baby sister, Tanya Nolan. We're 10 years apart. She's the youngest, and she asked me. She said, "Hey, I got a business opportunity for you," and she told me about this childcare center that Shonda was about to. She was going to a different location. That was the name of the young lady. And she wanted to know if my sister was interested. And Tisha was like, yes. And then she told me about it. We went in it together for a minute, and Tisha branched off and did her own thing. And that's how that happened. It fell from the skies. I had no idea that that's what I would be doing.
Wow. Yeah.
None whatsoever.
Yeah, but you do it so well.
Thank you.
One of the things that I do want to call out here is within the work for child care, you sponsor some families.
I do that often.
Yeah,
often, at least a few times a month. I understand. I didn't come from what how can I put this? I don't want to say I grew up poor, but I know what it's like to lack when your money is not stretching. So it's my honor to actually help some of my parents.
Yeah. That's a godsend, I'm sure, for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. Even when it comes to the holidays and school clothes, like I pay attention to our kids when it comes to their shoes, the ones that are eating a little bit more than others, things like that. And we're not open on the weekends. So most of the time, pretty much all of the time, the ones that I know that needs that assistance, I send food home with them on the weekend, stretch till Monday, because I don't want to be worried about it.
Wow.
It literally would bother me. So my team members know to do that. Pack their food for the weekend, stretch till Monday.
Yes. Yeah, you truly are a godsend in that aspect, I'm sure. And I wanted to know also too, have you come across any experiences with children within the community, within the LGBTQ plus community? Not, of course, they're too young to truly, say how they identify, but have you had situations where you've had to navigate some of those conversations with parents? And
okay, with the kids, I'll bring them into my office and I'm like, hey, Miss Tanya's not going to say anything. You can trust me. Because a lot of the time I can see the concern on their face, and I have a zero tolerance for bullies. I do not deal with it whatsoever. And the parents only get 2 warnings, not 3. So if you don't check them at home, you'll need to take them somewhere else. And I stress that. Some of them get bullied and teased at school. And I'm seeing that they're just not in good spirits. And I would definitely pull them aside, especially the ones that I know that, is LGBTQ, like I know. And so I'm like, hey, I talk to them first. I'm not waiting to just always speak to their parents, because I see the hurt. And then with some of the parents, some of them are not so nice and are not going to be understanding and will straight up say, hey, I need for you to mind your business. I got this. And I have to be careful with my tone and how I'm going to say this to them with the ones that are that way. And I simply say, well, when they are in my care, they are my business. And this is what's happening. So, hey, let's deal with this appropriately, because if it's on my mind when I go to sleep at night and I wake up and it's still on my mind and I'm thinking that this kid is getting abused in any kind of way, whether it's physically or verbally, then you're forcing me to have to do something about it. And you don't want me to do nothing about it. You don't want those people in your life.
Yeah.
So how are we going to deal with this?
Absolutely. Yeah. And face it head on, because
I have to. And then some people say, oh, I'm too direct. I don't know how else to be. So I don't know how to sugarcoat that.
Yeah. And the kids need that. I'm sure you create such a safe space for the kids. So
I do. I have cameras everywhere. I mean, paid the extra money, even whereas they have to put in a code before they get in. And then I'll change that code every so often, because some of the kids that are no longer in my care and the parents still have it, I'll change it every so often, like every other month. And then the rest of the parents are going to get an email with this new code.
Yes. Yes. Check your email. So speaking, you on a personal level, like at what point, or did you always kind of have to have the courage to be who you are, to identify the way you identified? Like at what point did that happen for you?
It's about to be funny. So I told my mom, I came home, and my mom is a Christian and she's an usher in the church. Okay, feel me on this.
I know.
Okay. I said, Mom, this is my girlfriend. She said, well, you know how I raised you. Those are her words. You know what it says in the Bible. I said, well, Mom, this is who I'm with. And my mom was very respectful. She didn't, call me out of my name or anything like that. Those words. She was welcoming in her own way. And she found a way in her own way to accept it and still love me. So it was a little, rocky. But when I stepped into my own truth, I talked to myself often. I kept telling myself, I matter. I need to please me first before I please anyone else. What makes me happy? What is it that I want to do? I said, if they're staring, let them stare. Baby, I'm going to hold your hand. I want to hold your hand. It's okay for me to want to kiss you on the cheek. Let them look, let them stare. They're looking at something beautiful. This is exactly what I say. God. So I talk to myself, I mentor myself, and I keep it pressing, because I'm with everywhere do I go, I'm there. So I embrace my shadow. And I love me, because if I don't, I will be broken all the way, because the people in this world, everybody is not so nice, and everybody is going to always have an opinion. And I say that to myself often. And I say to myself, Tanya, does their opinion matters more than yours? And I say to myself, hell, absolutely not. You said keep it PG. No, it does not. And I'll say that every once in a while, and I'm big on affirmations. Even when it comes to my kids, my staff have team members. They say the affirmations that I have written for both our facilities before breakfast, before snack and lunch, and occasionally during dinner time. And normally, if I'm there, they're going to do it four times. Just to put that smile on my face, because I want them kids to feel how I feel, whether they're straight or not. You matter. Your opinion matters, because they have to deal with this world. So when I'm no longer here, I want to know that I actually help them grow in that way, to know that they are matter and that they are loved. And if no one wants to love you for who you are, then guess what?